You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
We're back. Our guest today in our show on the demise of the newspaper, or newspaper's the final edition, as we're calling it, Betty Fennell, legendary reporter for the Wilmington Star-News, who kind of switched roles and went from reporting news after she retired from reporting to making news with her entry into politics, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. We were talking about coverage of local issues. I will say, to the Star-News's credit, they recently sued New Hanover County on an issue of releasing information that the paper claimed the public had the right to know, and the Star-News won, forcing the county to turn over this information to the paper. What happens if newspapers go away to issues like that?
You won't find out. The public won't find out what's going on. It's going to be a sad day because the individuals don't have the money to hire lawyers and sue organizations that refuse to release records.
And that actually is not unusual. Governments and public bodies refuse to release public information all the time, claiming it's not public information, and it takes somebody like
that's true,
a Star-News or an organization.
And I know that in the past there have been groups that got together and sued government to try to release information. And I think there are some laws that allow judges to award those groups compensation, legal compensation. But I think it's been dismal, the record that the judges have had in awarding legal fees to those groups who have had to sue to get that information.
We talked about the internet playing a part in the imminent demise, or the direction that print news has taken. We've talked about advertising. What about the down economy? You think that's played a role in what's happening in print news?
Definitely. If companies are having a hard time selling their merchandise, you know, their profits have been cut, they're going to start cutting ads. Definitely that has played a role in the...
But we're not, on the national scene, we hear when recovery happens, and there's going to be a recovery, and we know there will be at some point. They're not anticipating a recovery for the print media, are they?
I'm not. I don't think that their future looks all that bright right now.
Paper just went on a big redesign. What's your take on it?
I've heard good and bad. My husband, when he first looked at it, says it looks like the USA Today.
You think they were shooting for that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Tabloid look, maybe?
I don't know. They may have been. I think I can tell you one thing I was disappointed in, and that is this on A2, the second page of the newspaper, there's all this entertainment news. I don't think that's the place for entertainment news. I think that ought to be put back over in the lifestyle section. I mean, I would think 1A should be reserved for the important news stories. After all, that's what a newspaper is. It provides news and not necessarily entertainment news. I mean, it can provide entertainment news, but not necessarily on that in that front section. I think that ought to be reserved for the more serious news. Of course, I know a lot of people are more interested in who's going to win American Idol than they are, you know, what Nancy Pelosi said yesterday. But nevertheless, I still think that news ought to be up front, that kind of news.
Why do you think they went to that redesign? Was it because they're outsourcing printing now, or was it because of they want to give a more tabloid look to what they're doing?
Well, I think they did. Redesign, I think, is done every few years anyway.
Is it?
I think so. I think that's something they do automatically to create more interest.
But it did save money, don't you think? Because
it very well may have saved money. Of course, I can tell you some of the equipment that the Star-News had wasn't always that good when it came to reprinting photos, and I've noticed that the photos are a lot sharper.
Oh, yeah.
In this new edition. I think that has been an improvement.
What about, there seems to be a shift from putting resources into covering hard news to softer, more sort of lifestyle stories like food, fashion, pets, and you have reporters covering this and those kinds of things. What's your take on that? Why is there a shift in that? It's not only the local paper. I see that in a lot of print news.
I'm not sure. Maybe
would you say that's accurate?
I think that's accurate. Of course, I know that newspapers do surveys, and these surveys will often tell them that people want to see more positive stories. They don't want to read all the negative stories, but and the newspapers, I think, a lot of times tend to believe those surveys. But I can tell you, I have never known newspaper rack sales to skyrocket when they were reporting, you know, how to wash your dog, as opposed to a scandal about your local city council member. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
What about this electronic age and the fact that the younger demographics, which you mentioned, want information delivered electronically? They don't, I mean, it's all electronics. People's heads are buried in their iPods, and you walk along the street, they don't even see you. They're totally transfixed with electronics. Is that part of all of this?
It may be. It very well may be. You've got a lot of people, as I told somebody the other day, you've got a lot of people doing this number now. They don't need newspapers. They've got these Blackberries, and they're doing this number if they want to find out anything, you know, right there instantly.
We'll come back and talk more with our guest, Betty Fennell, legendary reporter who ran for the North Carolina State Senate. Will she run again? We'll find out when we come back. Stay with us.